Dan, for all the attention that the kids are going to be getting, and rightly so, how important have your veterans been through these two games, your older guys, the core guys?
Yeah, I mean, both games, it's been massive. And I know there's been a lot of attention on the young guys, but you look at what the veterans have done as well, in terms of production, in terms of on the defensive side, the situational usage. I mean, they've been out there for all of that. The special teams here tonight playing a major factor there in the game. You look at, I think it's, there was a lot of guys that were involved in that. Sid, Gino, in terms of their production there, the power play. And I think that whole unit there with Rax and Carl and Tang, those were big moments in the game. And so, and then also on the penalty kill, and then you got some guys that have, get older players there, in terms of guys that are out there that are killing. The whole D-core, I think, played a role in those situations. Dewey and Lizzo there getting pretty big minutes. Chari, Rax. So you go through that list. Those are guys there that have, you got the big three, but you also have a lot of other veteran players too, guys that have been in the league that are making big contributions right now.
Taylor,
Phil Hollander, you went from a scratch last game to playing with Sid by the end of this one. Just what did you see from him out there tonight?
He looked like he was going there, and so it was. I thought that 5-on-5, I felt like we could generate a little bit more, and so we looked to make a switch. And I thought actually, I thought the third period was a little bit better there in terms of some of the stuff we were looking to generate at a 5-on-5 standpoint. And so that was that's what we wanted.
Mark on the left.
Dan, is Brazo's scoring a surprise per se, because that's not exactly his rep, but he's making some pretty nice plays out there?
Based on the first game, we were hoping to get 2 tonight. So no, not at all. I mean, I know that if you go back last year, like towards the end of the season there, at the he wasn't scoring at the same rate, but like we see a guy who's he's got really good hands, really good around the net, and then you can also showed he can also score off the rush. Like he's got good instincts that way. He's a player that size, when they can get to the inside, whether it's, him at the net front, last game you saw off a face-off play, or a face-off, and then, like tonight you saw it there on a really good play off the rush, but he's getting to the inside, and, that being that size with those types of hands, when you can get into those areas, that's tough to handle. And, he's playing well. I thought he was another guy too, though. It's not a big surprise for us. I think is, like you saw it day to day there, just in training camp. His practices were good. I thought he was working. He's putting himself in good areas, and so I think this has been a continuation now. Of the work he put in there during training camp.
Seth on the far right.
Dan, Tristan Jarry, a lot of scrutiny on him as always. He faced a pretty strong barrage there late in the game. Firm. What was your assessment of his full 60 minutes?
I think I'll start by just going off of that first comment. There was a lot of scrutiny. I heard about that, but this is a new year. This is a clean slate for a lot of guys. So I don't know. I mean, I thought he played great. You look at the end of the game, like that's a tight game. You look at some of the saves that he made there in the third period, and so I said it this morning. He was trending up. He earned this opportunity to go in, and so it's a new year, and where things and I said that for everybody too. That maybe there was scrutiny before. Like it's a new season. It's a fresh start. He trended up there in training camp. I felt like he earned the right to, and I say felt he earned the right to get a game early. He didn't start the first one. Seahawks gets a shutout, and we wanted to stick with it because he earned that based on the camp that he had and the way he finished camp. And there were some massive moments there in the third period that he came up with big saves and helped make sure that this team secured those 2 points.
Josh on the left.
Yeah, that's 5 points in 2 games for Gino now. Obviously playing at a pretty high level to start the season. What do you see in his game that you like, and what has it been like getting to know him and coaching him in the first few months of your time here in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think he's been great. Like he's you see a player like him for so long, you know, from afar, and then, you know, you coach against him, you know, for, it was a number of years, and then to get a chance to work with him every day, like, you know, I feel like he's been really working on both sides of the puck, you know, I mean, the offensive production has been great, and, you know, I think he's feeling good there with the puck right now, you know, around the net, making plays, you know, I think, you know, both games there, you know, he's been involved in just a lot of chances, but he's also like, and this hasn't just been in games, but even in practice, you know, the way he's working off of the puck, you know, I think it's been really good, and so, yeah, I think he's a guy too he's earned some trust to be in a lot of different situations, him and his line.
Tim on the right.
I know there's an element of symbolism or symmetry to how you deploy the starting lineup in Madison Square Garden with the young kids going out with the veterans, but from a functional standpoint, the way it came together on the ice tonight, to see the vets hook up a couple times and to see all those young guys get their firsts together on that goal, what was that like to see, and can you speak to how that yin and yang has worked out for you so far here?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, try to mix it up there sometimes in the lineup. Obviously, these first games, it's a little different. You know, I don't know if it's gonna be something we're always mixing up the lines there to start. I don't think that's the intention. I think you got two very special nights there. You know, the opening night with the, you know, two guys playing their first NHL game, and then you got, you know, this, you know, the guys playing in their 20th season together, and then you come back home and the celebration behind that. And so we just felt like it would be something to, you know, yeah, I think, you know, tip our hats to those guys, and they should be out there starting. So, yeah, I think I knew it coming in. I think we all know it. Like, I think it's a really, you know, there's a blend there in terms of, you know, us having some, you know, some guys that have been playing at this high level for so long, especially, you know, three that are together, and then the young guys that are coming up, which, you know, yeah, we didn't know coming into training camp exactly how this roster was gonna play out. Like, we let that happen on its own, give guys opportunities, and obviously right now we do have a number of young players, and so, you know, it is good to see like how that's starting to come together, but there's still a lot of work to be done, you know, and I mean, you saw it there tonight. You know, it's hard to win in this league, and so you're gonna take it. Every night is gonna be a grind, and I think for everybody. You know, anytime you can go out there and earn those 2 points, like, we're gonna take it. You know, but I think you also see a lot of things there that we're gonna be able to continue to build on, and I think honestly for me, that's the really exciting part.
A couple more, Dan on the left.
Dan, I think defensemen had almost half of the team's shots tonight. What are your conversations like with the defensemen in terms of activating, but also with the lead in the third period? Does the message change at all?
I think you gotta look at, there's different parts of the third period, you know, it's, you know, for me, it's when you start a third period, like, even, you know, if it's a tie game, like, I'm not one to say, like, we're gonna totally change things, to start a game. I think when you get towards the end of that third period with a lead, that's when you might make some slight adjustments. I've just found that if you try to go too far on one side of it, then you start really sitting back and being on your heels, and so it's not really going to change too much there, especially early in the third. And I think you always have to have balance. You know, like it's the, you know, I do like when the defensemen are involved. We like it when the defensemen are involved. I think there is a balance to it. You know, it's you know, you have to have people that are covering for you as well. And so I think there's responsibilities when it comes to that stuff with both for the defensemen and where they're going, but also with the forwards and their recognition of it.
Last one now, far right.
Dan, Harrison Barrick got his first NHL goal, but I want to ask you about his defensive work over the last couple of games, just when you kind of assess how he's played on that side of the puck. What do you think he's done in HNIP?
I think it's been good, and I think it's, you know, he's continuing to learn. You know, and I think that's an early part of all, you know, this is part of all this, even going back to training camp. It's like, all right, you can't expect a player his age or Kendall's age to come in here, like, you know, they're so far from being a finished product, and that's what makes them exciting, you know, and so, you know, they need to be in some situations to learn from. We need to be sitting down and working with them off the ice in terms of, you know, reviewing things and teaching them, you know, some of those details that, you know, you probably, you can look at it, you can work on, but until you're really in this type of environment, it can be harder to truly understand, and now they're living in it. So, you know, I think it's gonna continue to grow. So I think there's a really good base there, really good starting point. You know, like he has been, and he's gonna continue to have, you know, a lot of work and conversations there with Mike Stuthers, especially, who works with our defenseman, who does a great job, and I think that part of the game is just gonna continue to evolve.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.